What do you need? What can I get you? I don't know what you need. You want attention. Good job. Hello? Can everyone hear me and my dog? Is this thing on? Thanks for hanging in. My dog started barking. This is Maybel. Yes, this is Maybel. She just got a little impatient with me as I'm planning on sitting here for 2 hours. So, thanks for being patient. I'm super happy that you're here. Super exciting. I see a couple names in the chat that I can already recognize. Are you hearing me okay? Sweet. This is my first stream. I wouldn't say ever, but I technically have done it before when I worked for Toon Boom. If anyone has seen my community rigging programs before on their Twitch streams, I just wasn't actually in charge of all of the technical stuff. So this is my first time in charge of all the technical stuff. And this is Maybel. She's a senior gal, if I can get her in the picture. See. A big, beautiful dog. She'll probably usually sit behind me and chill out, but she's in a mood right now that I did not predict. Well, I'm glad you're here. We're going to be rigging. I used to rig for Toon Boom and all over Vancouver, Canada. There's been a couple of questions so far. Feel free to ask. This is technically a 2-part series. So on Tuesdays, I will be running through the program and running through what I do personally to build a rig. We've got an incredible design waiting for you. How many people have downloaded it and are going to be rigging with me as a rig along is intended to be? Anybody? Yeah, Maybel is definitely looking forward to rigging as well. I wish I could put her to more work. I wish she could pay rent. Yeah, so if you've seen the design, it's pretty exciting. It is Kadence the carrot, Cade for short, and yeah, we're looking forward to rigging Kadence with you. We have not rigged Kadence yet. I haven't even really thought about it. So the whole purpose of this stream is really to go through the process. And it's been a while since I've rigged, since I've started this endeavor. I haven't really had the time to rig. So I'm going to be making a lot of mistakes. And I'm actually kind of excited about that. I'm a little bit nervous as well. I took today off to be very chill. Oh, perfect. She found her little squeaky toy, calming herself down. But yeah, I wanted to talk about that a little bit. Like when I get nervous, I kind of do this thing where I just shake. So I was planning on doing that on camera, but I feel pretty good right now. So as long as Maybel settles down, we're good to go. Sorry if you can hear those squeaky noises. But yeah, I think we're good to go. So if there was any problems downloading the material, please let me know. If there's any problems at all, again, please let me know. Yeah, I'm going to be rigging this character the same way that I would if I was running my own show, which I have done in the past. So my rigging technique is very widely used. Yes, I can see Harmony is a little bit expensive, but they did just release a new version of the software, which means you do have a 21-day free trial. So that's pretty exciting. You get a free trial every time they release a software. So in case you've used one in the past, you do get the chance to use it every single time. Um, all right, let me refocus. Where was I? So yes, rig along. The rig along is a two-part process. So today and every Tuesday, I'm going to be going through the process from start to finish. So I'll save the scene at the end around 6 o'clock. And then next Tuesday, I'll open it again, and I'll just continue. And then the second part is help. So if you're rigging this character with me, it is a complicated process. I call it cartoon engineering. So on Thursdays, I'm offering a course, and I think it's pretty affordable. It's $20. $20 gets you in, and I'm going to answer all of your direct rigging questions. We can look at your scenes. It'll be hands-on, and we're just kind of testing this out. This is a huge experiment for myself, for you. I have been teaching rigging, I don't know, over 6 years, all over the world for 3 of those years, and a lot of it was through the computer, and a lot of it was hands-on. So I have developed a lot of tricks and techniques that I forget about, actually. So this is kind of something that I'm trying to do to remind myself to break things down into a more simpler form, because I've learned a lot of like efficient ways that I can just blow past a lot of the smaller details. But my goal is to kind of explain more about why I do that, because it's one thing to say, oh, I'll send you the information. So one of the goals is to really break it down so that you understand, because what I know from this process is that it can be incredibly difficult if you don't know what you're doing. And there's a lot of misinformation, and there's a lot of fantastic information. And so I'm gonna direct you to the good stuff. We won't even talk about the stuff that's out there that you might not want. And a lot of things too, um, ideas can be conflicting. So if you're following one method, it might not be the best method for another method. So once you start mixing things, that's where you can get into a lot of trouble with harmony. So yeah, without further ado, I'm going to switch this over to gameplay for the first time. Ooh, so exciting. Um, do, do, do. See. Oh, wrong one. All right, cool. So yeah, so I'm, like I said, this is the first time I'm opening up Toon Boom 22. So we're going to run through a lot of the basics and go through a lot of the cool things. I haven't been able to use Harmony 22 since they just released it last week, so I do not know all of the features. But also, you can. Thank you. I've always wanted to use a transition on purpose, where it made sense. And I felt like it makes sense here. But you can also follow along on my website. Well, not follow along, but you can learn more on my website. So let me throw that into the chat. I'm looking forward to learning from you as well as myself. And is Harmony 21 okay? Yeah, it's totally fine. Like I said, I don't know any of the new features yet. So maybe one day we can, maybe that's its own topic one day. All right, so I think you can see my screen. I'm going to set up a scene called Cadence. And I've got all the treats next to me for Maybel as well, so that I can try to keep her busy. Although sometimes she gets a little greedy, just wants to bark. My favorite thing is to throw it out the window, or not out the window, the door, and she chases. You guys can't see this, but she chases the treats into the living room, and then she comes back for more. Can you hear her little pitter patters of her paws? Sweet. She's going to be an active participant in these streams. Aren't you, Maybel? All right, so we're still waiting for the scene to open. All right, so let's I'll bring up some of Kadence, some of these designs. All right, so I'll show you some of the concept designs. Oh, Maybel, you gotta. What's the matter, baby? What am I trying to do? I'm trying to open with. All right, so I was going to show you some of the concept designs for Kadence. When I originally had this idea, I asked a few friends, and a really good friend, Maywa, came and helped me out. So this is kind of Maywa's vision. I just asked, I was hoping for a garden theme because I want to talk about growth mindset, and just that idea. So I really wanted to work with gardens. And he came up with these really cool designs, these really cute designs. The next one, it got like really close, but it also like kind of missed the cute. Like it's cute, but it's also kind of scary. so so the next one we came up with is this one. This is the alternate design. Um, and some rough sketches. And then this was kind of like the original thing that he had sent me when I said growth. So these are we've got a mushroom and a carrot. For now, we're just working on the carrot. We're gonna see where this goes. When I'm rigging 2 hours a week, I don't know how long this is gonna take me. Sometimes it takes a week. I've worked on rigs where it's taken a month. I don't think this is gonna be a full month. Of a rig, but over the course of 2 hours a week, it might be a couple months. So we'll see where it goes and how long it takes, and we'll adjust the process if I have to speed it up or slow it down. Like I said, I really want to try to make this as easy for you as possible, but also giving you all the tools so that you can understand. Um, and then also, I want you to rig along with me. So if I'm moving a little bit slower, that's okay. That's actually probably one of my biggest anxieties through the course of my career, because I've been rigging now and in the industry for over a decade. But I noticed that I move slower, and I don't know where that comes from. I think it's like I don't have the lack of, or I have a lack of urgency. Whereas I think when I was working in the industry, I was always like on fire, rigging and going as fast as I can. But I've seemed to like lost that, but I don't make the same mistakes. Please tell me you're not going to be doing a 2D, 3D rotation. Well, it's going to be a 2D rig, but we are going to rotate it. So we're going to go through the whole thing. I do have the whole, is this the last picture? I do have the whole rotation. So let's see, this is let's open this up. Here we go. And I've got my scene open now. Okay, so all right, so this is yeah, this is the final design. This is what we will be rigging. This is Kadence, Cade for short. I'll probably say that a couple more times. But yeah, the goal was to build a simple enough character with the complexities that you need to basically tackle any rig. The goal here is to give you the skills that you can go and apply these same rigging techniques to a character of your own. And yeah, and then the character will do like, it won't be a full 3D rotation. We're not getting into master controllers here. We'll save that for a much later date. Let's start small, and Cade won't be small. So let's start with Cade, and we'll see where it goes. At the end, if anybody wants to set up master controllers on him, I'm pretty sure he's going to work pretty well. The first view will take the longest. Just to set this up, the first view will take the longest, And then once we have that done, we'll be able to um, we'll be able to like kind of move a little bit quicker. And I have some tips on how I move a little bit quicker and how I've developed a lot of speed. Everyone's always talking about picking up speed. So I've got a couple tips that help you move through the process a little bit faster. So what I'm going to do now is just quickly go through the program, and I'm going to set up my workspace the way that I like to work. So Harmony gives you this default way of working, and it works well. But I like a couple extra tweaks, and for high quality TV. When you're working with studios, you want to make sure that there are some things that you are not missing that you do need. So I'll quickly go over that stuff. First one being the things that Harmony gives you, I tend to throw out and create my own. So, what I mean by that is right now I've got my camera view and my node view here is hidden. But if I go to my node view, which I'm going to move, you can see here that it gives you this drawing. I delete it. So, get rid of that. And the reason I do that is because if you go inside your drawing node, so here we've got under the controls tab, it's got animate using animation tools. This is actually a really important step and it sounds really funny, but this little checkbox can get you in a lot of trouble. It's one of those things that it's a different method of rigging. It's a different method of animation and it could get you into trouble. So we're going to turn it off. We're not going to use it. And we're going to delete this drawing because by default, the program gives it to you every single time. So let's delete that. And then I'm also going to take the node view because I'm a rigger. I need to see that node view all the time. So I'm actually going to take it and pop that out and put it right here. So now I can see my camera view and my node view. For me, that's really important. When I'm drawing, I'll put my I'm right-handed. So when I'm drawing, I'll put my drawings on or like the thing that I'm tracing on the right. Oh, hang on. And then when I'm rigging, sometimes I flip it. So if I'm working in the camera view and I'm just rigging and I'm just like trying to like mess around and through all the engineers and the engineering and the engines, I'll kind of flip it. So I'll do whatever's easiest on my right hand on the right side. But today we're going to focus on drawing. So I'll put the camera on the right side. And your node view was probably hidden behind the color palette if you're using the default. Now this is where it's going to get hard for me to answer all your questions right now. So I'm going to do my best to make sure that you can follow along, and you can also open up another node view just by clicking on these little tabs. So the plus button will let you add another a window, and then the X will actually close it. So you can find a node view here, and a node view you can add. You can add a couple, so you can actually have a couple node views in your scene without having any problems. So I'm going to cancel that for now. And then the other thing, I'm going to go back a little bit. I mentioned that I like to delete the things that Harmony gives me. That includes the palette. So I'm going to leave the palette itself, but I'm going to delete these colors. Now, the reason for this, because when I first started Harmony, they said you don't want to use any of these colors because if you accidentally use it in a scene, it could screw up everything in the show. So obviously that's pretty vague. And I have now learned that some of these color pots, they have specific numbers tied to them. So in every scene, the vectorized line, and I can't remember if it's the green or the blue, but it's the green or the blue. Their numbers don't change, so they're exactly the same. So if you do reuse some of these colors and in one character, and somebody else uses the same color palettes in another scene, and then when an animator goes and takes both of those characters and brings them into their scene, it's actually true that they could have conflicting palettes. So we're not going to get into conflicting palettes. That's a huge technicality. But for now, we are going to delete all these colors. So we'll just click on this little minus button here and get rid of them. So now I've washed my scene of all the default things. And now I'm going to set up Harmony to work the way that I want it to work. Okay, so the next thing is we're going to go really quickly under Edit, under Preferences, and we're going to set this up so that it can rig for us. So the cool thing is we now have this little drop-down menu for preference sets. I'm going to set it to rigging, and that's going to take care of most of the presets for me. So I like to have my focus on mouse enter. Let me see. That one allows me to know which window. I'm it lets me know which window is active by my mouse. So I kind of shut it down, and you'll see it when we start working. But there'll be like a red window around the window of the mouse that your mouse is contained in. So if you're working in your node view, that will have a red window around it. That's just a little thing that's pretty standard. If you've used the program before, you're probably really familiar with that. Sometimes I like to put shortcut zooms on mouse. I don't think I'm going to leave this now. I might have to move. Oh, I see. How do I? Okay. You know what? Oh, this. Because I don't know how to move the message view, but I can move this. All right. So here's your preference set then. It's right here. And then from here, we're going to set, we want all of our settings here to be set to the default separate position for pegs. And that just lets you, the animator, or you, the rigger, control your peg movement a little bit more specifically. When we don't have that, the computer kind of tries to fill in information and it fills in gaps, and then you start to battle the computer. So you don't want that. So yeah, so we're gonna leave it for, we want the separate positions for all of them. We want stop motion keyframes and levels of undo. This is going to be depending on you and your preference and your computer, but 100 for me is not enough. So I like 250. I find that's a really good number. I have seen that go all the way up to like 500. I know people that like to set it to incredibly high numbers, but it does affect your RAM. So you have to see what your computer can handle. Okay, let's see what else. Okay, so the saves. I think there's two types of people in the world. One who has lost work and one who hasn't. So, so if you have lost work and you are a compulsive saver, I don't find that you need to have the save scene automatically on. I prefer not to have it on because I sometimes find that the window can pop up. And I think that's a little bit more disruptive to my workflow. And I'm a compulsive saver. My hand will just hit Control S naturally. So I do that. And then let's see. The next one. All right, let's go through the camera. I like to wash out my background when I'm working. This is a big one for me. So I will go to enable in camera drawing mode. Sometimes I even set this a little bit higher, but I think I can leave it at 70. And what this allows you to do is it allows you to really know when you're in a camera tool and a drawing tool. And that's one of the hardest things that I find when people are learning the software. There's so many tools that it's really difficult to know which tool you're using at the same time. And especially when we start to talk about the exact tools like select and the contour select. And then there's also the transform select. So they're all kind of like the same thing. All right. So let's see what else. Okay, node view, I'm happy with it. We don't have to change too much over here. This is already done. Sweet. Right now in the advanced option, again, I'm using the preset for rigging. So a lot of these things are done for me. But again, element node animate using animation tools default value. It's really important that this is off for the style of rigging that we're doing. And this is exactly the same thing that I showed you when I deleted the first node. Um, So we're gonna leave this off because it'll always make sure that it's off except for the first node. So every time you open a Harmony scene, that one drawing that you have, it will have it turned on. So if you're reusing that node, which I'm gonna show you how to reuse nodes, um, it's going to be turned on and it'll kind of undo a lot of work that we're setting up here. So again, always delete the default things like the colors and that drawing node. And then with your preferences, we only have to set them up this one time. All right. And then I think this is it. I think that's good. So I'm going to hit save, or I'm going to hit OK, should say. All right. So now when I create a drawing, which the shortcut is Control R, I can hit add and close. And I'm going to jump in here really quick. Oops, where'd it go? All right, so now when I go under controls, this button is turned off. So that's what we want. So that's good. Excellent. So now every time we create a drawing, we don't have to worry about going through here and turning that off. All right. Okay. So the next thing that we get to do is import our character. And so from here, we have a couple ways to do it. We can go from File, Import. We can go to Images, or we can also click on, I think it's this button right here, Import Images. You can also, what's a nice trick when you're just starting to learn the program, if you're using I have a Cintiq, so I do have a Cintiq pen. Where's the camera? Here it is. When you're using a Cintiq pen, you have to remove your hand physically from the screen. But if you hover over a tool, the program's going to tell you what it is. So if I use my mouse, as long as I take my hand off the mouse, to kind of like, because if I'm shaking, it's not going to give me that that option. But it's really nice. The other thing is that it also gives you your shortcuts, which is very handy when you're just learning the software. And I really appreciate that right now you're helping each other in the chat. So thank you so much. I can't really see the chat uh, from where I'm looking. So I really thank you very much for that. All right. So we can import, and we also have to set our preferences. So actually, before I import my scene, I will go over preferences for myself, or no, my preferences, sorry, keyboard shortcuts. So I am going to set up a few right now, usually because this is already done. And since we're setting stuff up, we might as well. So let's really quickly run through. I'm only going to set up 4 of them, 4 or 5 of them. So under deformation, this one is show current deformers. This is a really standard shortcut that animators add and riggers add in the West Coast. A lot of my information comes from the West Coast because that's where in Vancouver, Canada, which is where I was doing all this stuff professionally. So M is just a really nice. It's like the only letter in the keyboard where you can assign something. So deformers are pretty important. We usually give it to that. So M, and you can just click on the show current deformers, and then you can add your shortcut right here. You can clear it. You can also add the default, which there is nothing. So M works. And then for the other ones, I like to do for the drawing tools. So for instance, I'm gonna type in, I'll look for the line tool. There's a couple lines here, so it takes a couple clicks. There it is, line tool. Alt, and then it's like back. And my hand isn't big enough, so I can't do that. So I'm just gonna clear that out. And instead, I'm going to set it to, this one is going to be Alt, which one do I do this one? This one's Alt Z. Um, and now this is asking me to replace or duplicate the tools. I don't really use the zoom tool, so I just replace it. And the next one is going to be the rectangle. All right, so I'm going to clear this, and I'm actually going to set this one to, this is going to be Alt X. And again, I'm going to replace it because this is the one that I use the most. Okay, and then after this one, it's the ellipse tool. So E, L, L, I, there we go, ellipse tool. So I'm going to close this one, and I'm going to set it to Alt C, and I'm going to replace it. And if you also take a look really quickly, what I've just done is I've replaced the 3 bottom left buttons of the keyboard. So X, Z, X, and C, those are now my drawing tools. So now I've got really quick shortcuts for all of my drawing tools. So that's my first real big tip. So you can write that one down. All right. And so I think from there, the only other keyboard that I want to add real quick, because I like to leave myself notes in the network. And I do this for weekends so that on Friday at 5 o'clock, I can shut my scene down. And on Monday, if I'm still working on the same thing, I can kind of write myself a note, tell myself what I have to start on Monday morning. So Monday morning, I can just come in. I don't really have to think too hard. The information is there. Okay, so which one is that one? That one's going to be, what's that tool called? That one is Dropbox? No, backdrop. All right, so create a backdrop. So this one, this tool, what do I use? I think it's Control Shift D. Yes, Control Shift D. And then that's the last one. So I'm gonna hit OK. And it's really a good practice. If you need to take a post-it note, you're gonna actually see that I have post-it notes. If you've ever worked with me, my computer, I've got post-it notes everywhere. There's post-it notes here. I've got a post-it note wall that you guys can't see right here. But yeah, post-it notes. Write these things down so that you can remember the shortcuts that you've created, or you can always go back into your shortcuts and take a look. But that's a little bit more work. So yeah. All right, so now we're good to import the drawing. And I'll take a quick minute here to let you know that again, this is part 1 of the process, so this part's free. But if you are really struggling with anything, you can always come into my help course, and that'll be on my website, which is lindsaynoller.ca. So hopefully surrounded someone's yes, I'm always surrounded by 300 post-it notes. I wish I was more color coordinated with them, but I feel like that'll be the next step. All right, so let's import our image and let's get starting. So import is this button right here, and we're going to browse. I've already got this set so that it's in on my desktop. Here it is. And I'll bring in the final. All right, so now we've got a couple other options in the import window, so I can explain those just a little bit. We have the keep as original bitmap that just brings it in as a regular bitmap. We can also import it as a Toon Boom bitmap drawing. This is my favorite method. It brings in a really sharp image. And then we can also convert it to a Toon Boom vector drawing, which is incredibly heavy. So you don't want to do that. You'd get the most maximum flexibility of your image, and you can actually kind of go in and play with it. But at this stage, it's not worth it. So we won't do that. And I'm going to leave my color space as sRGB. That's like a standard monitor screen. We don't have to worry about too much. And as for alignment, we'll go with vertical fit. That should be actually, instead of that one, we'll go with actual size. I'll see how big this scene is, this file is, and then we'll change the transparency to straight. Okay, right. All right. So now we've got our image here that we're going to be tracing. Where is my camera? I'm going to add a peg, which is Control P, and that'll give me the ability to kind of control. One of the things that you really want to think about when you're working in Harmony is you always want to keep your drawings on the drawing layer, and then any type of movement or animation, you want to leave it on the peg layer. In cutout animation, those two things, like it's like Lord of the Rings, like they shall not pass, like they shall not cross, like you just can't mix those two. That's where you get a lot of problems, and that's when you get a lot of conflict between the animator and the computer. Computer's trying to do one thing, animator's trying to do another, and then you basically get a big headbutt and headache. So we want to avoid that. So let's see, this has been brought in. It's about the same size as the scene, the camera scene. So that's good. If you hold down Shift, you can keep your image. Not the perspective. What's that word? What's the word I'm trying to think of? The ratio. Keep the ratio. Preserve the ratio. So we're not accidentally squishing our character. We don't want that. And then the next step is really just deciding what scale we're going to be building this character. So scale ratio, thank you. For instance, when you are working in a cartoon, I think there's probably a lot less people who have actually started a show. So this step is kind of probably a little bit less known. But when you're working with animated scenes, you can always think of like the default camera. So the default camera is already set up within this scene. And when you're setting up the scale of your first character, you kind of want to think about that. So whenever an animator is bringing in the character, you want it to be easy because you're going to have to do this thousands of times. So, there's hundreds of scenes in an episode. There's a couple episodes, and by a couple, it could be 50. And if there's multiple seasons, it just keeps going. So this step is kind of an important one to think about that. Like, how much work do you want the animator to do when they bring in that character? Are we always scaling them up or scaling them down? So I always try to think about that in relation to the default camera. So in this case, Cade would be one of our taller characters, and I'm making this up as I go. If there's a show in my head, Cade is the carrot. Cade is going to be one of the taller characters. So I'm going to basically make Cade just to be a little bit bigger. Maybe not too big, but a little bit bigger, so that he fits very well in the frame. Maybe, yeah, probably this. This is probably pretty good. And then the other thing is, I'm going to center him. So we're going to be building to utilize like the best tips and tricks that I can and like speed things. We're going to be building the front view first. So I'm going to push that over to the center. And the shortcuts I'm using are, I think it's either Shift. Yeah, Shift and the arrow keys. It jumps about 10 spaces, so you can jump a little bit faster. And also there's this button right here, which is the safe area. It's going to show you exactly where the center of the screen is. So we're going to line up Cade so that the center of his face hits the center here. So something like this. I'm going to make the screen a little bit bigger. There we go. And so that looks pretty good to me. You don't have to work with that center piece on all the time. Yeah, I'm going to quickly save just because I haven't yet. And yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna mad hops. Generally, design will have things scaled properly before any art is given to you, but sometimes they won't. So you have to coordinate with different departments to make sure things are scaled correctly. Yes. And so actually this character does not have any scaling attachment to it, like in the design. So for instance, what I mean is that this character is only in itself in this design sheet. When you're trying to scale something for the first time, you're kind of setting it up as like you go on the fly. So sometimes you'll bring in designs like other designs. So you'll bring in a background and you'll bring in your character, and then you you kind of eyeball it. It's a lot of eyeballing, and you're guessing. So you just kind of want to do the best you can. But when you get to the second character, it's super important that you know exactly how big the second character is compared to the first, because that's when you can get into some real scaling difficulties. So for today, we don't have to worry about it so much, but if we do another character in the future, we will definitely revisit this step. For now, it's okay that Kate is just like a little bit smaller than the actual camera itself. It just saves you a little bit of time, like when you have to go and draw stuff and fidget with the camera. Okay, so let me save that one more time. The next thing that I like to do is I like to lock the drawing because if you can see here, you can click it. So you can lock the drawing inside the layer properties just by opening it up and clicking on the little lock button. You can also access that lock button down here. So I can unlock it and lock back up. And then from here, we can leave this character. Oh, something else that I might do, and I'll do that right now. If you hit enter, this is probably one of my favorite tools. Is I forget what it's called, but like the magic node revealer. It does have a name, but I can't remember it. So we can just type in transparency, and we will find the transparency node. There it is. And then if you hit Alt, you can pop the transparency node right on there. So you can activate and deactivate nodes by hitting A and D. And again, I might be moving a little bit fast, but I kind of have to because this will be a slow process. Again, there will be time to go over these things, and that's on Thursdays at the same time. But for today, we're just throwing a transparency node there. And I can't grab my drawing, which is good. And the next thing is we're going to group this drawing. And we're going to group this drawing now because it's just a little bit cleaner. So if you can do Control Shift G, we'll group it automatically. But you can also, oops, right click and hit group selection, and you can group it with a composite. You can also add a composite at a later date. So I'm just gonna hit group selection. And then because I like to stay organized, I'm a very because of rigging over the course of a decade, I've just become a lot more preventative in my thoughts. So I always like to think of these things as like future gifts. So future gifts to myself, future gifts to Maybel, future gifts to my rigging self. So I'm gonna name the group right now. And this is going to be called Kadence. Cadence. Cadence. So that way it's done. Set it and forget it. We never have to go back and look at that again. So then we're working inside the group. So this is where harmony starts to shine, and also where other people can also get lost. So we're now, we've got the character out here, but we can jump inside these groups and get into the multiple levels. So harmony is basically, this is the beginning of the hierarchy. This is why harmony costs so much money, because this tool is where you can start to have a lot more flexibility and a lot of fun, and you can really push the technology. So from here, you can see kind of where we're in. So this is, if I click on this, it'll bring me back to the top of the network. And then when I'm inside the group, it'll tell me that I'm inside of this group. So you can have groups inside of groups inside of groups, and you can chase that rabbit hole forever. And this is kind of where you can kind of keep track of where you are. And yeah, so now we get to start getting into the fun stuff. So the multi-ports, right here, we got a multi-port in and we got a multi-port out. You can see that I'm going to start to slowly create space. The way that I like to think about this is like a sandwich. So the multi-ports are the bread, unless you're like eating like those hot open face sandwiches or whatever, or if you're gluten free and you're doing this with like lettuce or cabbage, like that's still the beginning and the end of your sandwich. So everything's going to be in between is what we're going to be working on. All right, so someone's already throwing out some real shortcuts in the chat, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, so Control H, you can create a composite. And with Harmony, there's a couple different types of composites. Because of the preferences that we set earlier, they're going to automatically be set to pass through, and that's kind of important. If your composites are not set to pass through, you can go into the little yellow box here, the layer properties, and you go to mode, and right here you can set it as a bitmap and you can set it to pass through. So we want it to be passed through. If you've missed that step and they're being set to bitmap, that would be the default. So just go ahead and set it to pass through, and then from here you can just, instead of creating them new, just copy and paste composites. That's what I usually do to be quick. So I'm going to again use Alt, pop that in there, and I'm going to disconnect the multi-port in. And I'm just using my mouse and my scroll wheel to zoom in and out, which is why I don't use the hotkeys. So I'm just going to pop that up there. And we're just going to start out. I feel like today we're going to get into a little bit of drawing, but that'll probably be next week's. So today just feels like setting up the scene. So just to give you a little guesstimate right there of what we're going to get through. Yeah. When in doubt, always make it a pass through. It's not the worst case scenario. There are some downsides, but we won't get into that today. So we've got the drawing right here. And now if you're familiar with Harmony, then this next step is probably something that you already know. But if you're not familiar with Harmony, then this next step is really important. So when you're working with the program, and you copy and paste a node. So I'm just going to copy and paste. So Control C and then Control V. So right now, what I've done is I've just created a new node. But because it's copied, what's going to happen is if I draw something on here, I'll go quickly in here. My colors are red because I haven't actually added any colors. So this is like the angry no color red, no colors assigned, which is fine, but you can see it really clearly here. I'm gonna unplug that one and I'm gonna plug this in, and you can see that the color is transferred into the same, like into the other node. So we don't want that. That's danger. That's danger. So let's delete this. Let's go here. Let's select all this stuff, delete it. Right. And I'm going to do this one more time, but this time I'm going to hit Control B, and this is Paste Special. This is a very important window. So we want to make sure that we are either always creating drawing files or never creating drawing files. Always will basically create the same it will create the same image, but it won't be linked. And actually, I just realized I didn't show that linking process in the last one, but there'll be plenty of times to talk about uh, copy and pasting special. So in this window, we're going to set it to always create drawing files. We're going to set it to creates new columns right here. And I'm going to leave my palettes as do nothing. So it just kind of like reuses everything that's in the scene. All right, so I'm gonna hit OK. And so now I have another drawing. And if I go here and the original one, I'm gonna draw, let me draw something that's at least drawing with my mouse right now, at least, and then we go to here, got drawing ones. Oh, what happened? Oh, okay. All right, so this is, let me unplug this one. There we go. So now I can't see that heart, that heart does not exist. So we've done that correctly. That's kind of how we want to move and proceed. So let me go back to this. Now there's one other thing. This is, I forget what version this changed, but in one of the previous versions of Harmony, when I would set my wash out my background, I wouldn't have to do another step for it to work. But they changed it. So now I have to do another step. And I can see now that every time you open up Harmony, I'll have to turn this on. And this is to show that washed out background that I set up in our preferences. So this is the way that I like to work because it lets me know which tool I'm kind of in really quickly. So I'll go over this real quick because it's kind of important. So enable in camera drawing mode, I will wash out the background. So I'm gonna hit cancel. And so here, it kind of looks like there's a drawing. I'm selecting, I know that there's no drawing under drawing one, but I can see it. So something's there. So these buttons right here, so the light table and the current drawing on top, I'm gonna turn them on. And that's going to let me really actually take advantage of that washed out background. So now I can see that I've got my drawing one selected, but there's no drawing there. But if I select the actual drawing where I remember I drew that heart, I can see the drawing now. So I don't actually need the drawing of this heart, so I am going to delete it. But yeah, so now I've got two drawings. They are not linked, and we're going to do this again. So this is kind of where I start to have fun. Rigging has made me a little bit more of an organization nerd. So this is actually a part that I enjoy. So what you can do is I'm going to select the two drawings. I'm going to copy them again, and I'm going to paste special. Now, I'm a big fan of this window. Every time I paste special, I like to see this window. Why? Because I know that I am not setting myself up for a really big heartbreak. So I'm going to keep adding. And there's a couple ways you can do this. So I can even do this and create more of these. And no copy, paste. Now I can set up this composite and I can delete that composite, and I've got another 4. And this is, again, one of those tricks, repaste special. Kind of lets me, we used to set these drawings up manually, one by one, but now kind of quick to just do this. And then usually at this stage of the game, I actually start to plan the whole character. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, so we got 12 drawing nodes in one composite. That's about my max. I don't like to add anything more than 10 to 12 drawing nodes per composite. Because right now what we're doing is I'm planning out the parts of the character. So because I've been doing this for so long, again, this is one of those autopilot um, moments. So essentially, all these drawing nodes are going to turn into little pieces of the character. Um, so for instance, if you think about those old style cutout paper dolls, um, you know, the ones with the pins in the joints. They're pretty basic. You have like a lower leg. Sometimes you'd have a shoe if it was more detailed, an upper leg, and then that would be attached to the hips, and then there could be clothes, and then arms and whatnot. But in cartoon rigging, you're going to get into so much more detail. So we end up having a ton of these, which is why things start to feel very overwhelming when you look into a character. I don't have a character on me that I can open up and just show you on the inside, but I know that they're out there online. I definitely know that if you've seen any, there's that olive rig that's out there. That's a great resource. Um, so shout out to I don't know the name of the person that built that rig, but that's a good rig to look at if you also want something else as reference. Doo, doo, doo. But yeah, so then I can start to think, okay, so let's say I use more or less of these pieces for the face. All right, so now I can copy and I can paste special again. That might be the hair and the head. And I can paste special again. Then we get into the body and the chest. The character will have two arms. It'll have the lower body and the legs. And so I can add probably, oops, I accidentally hit Control V there, and I noticed because I didn't have my window. So again, that I love that window because it is my safeguard. So Control V. So this could be the lower body and a leg. Okay. Okay. All right, so if I zoom out, now I have quite a few of these, and I don't necessarily have to plug them all in to start. I can just kind of leave it as the first one. And again, today we're going to just focus on little bits of this. We got another hour, so we're good to go. Maybel is doing well. Calm down. So good. Good girl. Okay. So yeah, so now we can start drawing and designing the face. When I do this for characters, I always rig in the exact same way. And it's so funny. I've now said her name, and now she wants to take. Maybe. All right. So I always rig in the same way. I always want my node view to look exactly the same, no matter what character you're in. Essentially, I rig from head to toe, but instead of starting with the hair, I start with the face. So I kind of go from face to head to hair and then head to toe. So we're going to do that here. Hey. Okay. She just knows she can get treats this way. So that's what she's doing. She's milking me. All right. Okay. So we'll start with this eye right here, and we also have to set up our color palettes and our line weights. We have to decide what our line weights are going to be. And again, deciding what your line weights are going to be is kind of one of those things. When you do it for the first character, it kind of sets the tone for the rest of the show. So you want to, yeah, you want to make sure that you're kind of choosing things that are easy, and we'll get into that when I get to the lines. You're okay. You're okay. So, all right. Before I do this, before I go any further, I'm gonna jump to the top of my network. I'm gonna disable my transparency, and I'm just gonna pick a couple colors just so that we've started this process. So, boy. All right. So in this little add color plus sign right down here, I'm just going to, well, you okay? I'm just going to hit this plus button a couple times. So plus, 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 plus. Oh, good. She's excited. She likes color, even though she sees the world in black and white. She likes color. Can you see her in the camera? Because no, you can't. Not with the edited view. She's just staring at me. Okay. So right here you can double click. You can double click the color palette and you'll get a color picker. So feel free to just pull that over. Try not to block myself from the screen. And then you can use the color picker here. And if you zoom in, we will notice that the lines for the eyes are the black, and then the pupils are actually a different color. So we're going to start with the face. So we're going to pick all these colors. And then I'm going to start with the line because the line is something, this is a trick that I use that I'm kind of excited to show off. So what I do, or what you can do, is you can go in and you can pick the line color. So I'll grab a real thick black line. And then I'll set this to be called line. But because what happens when you start to trace things, so let's see, grab the ellipse tool real quick. Because of this, I find that you can't see it. So this is my trick. I don't actually use the black outline to trace my characters. I often use a very bright color that is very easily seen. And what that does, and if we just jump back into that color pot for the line color, we can change it automatically, which is again one of the superpowers of Harmony. This is why people use it. I tend to use a color that's kind of close to like an orangey pink, and I also try to use a color that's not specific to the character in itself, because sometimes the lines are not black, sometimes the lines are different colors, sometimes all the lines are different colors. So again, this can be a little bit trickier. Um, but yeah, I always try to, when I'm drawing a character, I always do it in a completely different color. And then because the way the program works, you can change the color after the fact. So if I had a whole bunch of drawings with this color, all I would have to do is go to the one color pot. And if I've done my job correctly, which is basically a color by numbers, you assign a specific color to everything. And if you're, as long as you're reusing the proper colors, at the very, very end, we can go back and we can set the color of the black, and then the character is 100% complete. So that's usually the last step, unless I'm tired and I forget. And sometimes I'll throw a character on out the door, and it'll have like completely wrong colors. But yeah, so we'll do some rigging, and I'll pick like a orangey. I'll maybe go a little bit more dark since we've got some orange in the character. Maybel. All right. You know what? Let's take a quick minute. Let me take a quick minute and see if I can help Maybel chill out for a second. And yeah, we'll be right back. Just give me like 3 minutes. Maybel. Baby girl, what's up? Come on. You need. Hey, do you need to go outside? Okay. Lick Matt to the rescue. Who else has a dog that loves peanut butter? Peanut butter on me? No. Okay. All right. All right. So where was I? We were talking about the line color, and we'll just keep going. We'll just keep rigging. So I'll delete this color. Oh, that's what I was doing. I was picking colors. All right. So yeah, we'll draw the character in a completely different color. I also think about it this way: if you are learning harmony, there's going to be moments where you're frustrated. I tend to pick colors that I like to look at. So I stay away from that angry red color as much as possible because I find that it can make me angry. So even though that it might look red to you, it is pink on my screen. So, all right, so we've got the line color, and I will add the pupil color and the eye whites. So this is pretty simple. I'm a pretty slow typer too, so it's a good chance for you to catch up. Yes, so yeah, this is all personal preference. This is all the way that I rig. I do typically will color pick the whole character as I go. Uh, but I find that on the first view, um, sometimes I hit and miss. Depends on how I want to work, and sometimes I like to think about it in smaller chunks. So today I'm going to focus on the head, get the head character of the character going. White side pupils. We'll do the eyebrow. I have worked on characters with color palettes that have taken a whole day to color pick. So yeah, this is the part of the program that can be a bit slow, but also fun. All right, we'll have to figure out how to do the blush. Do that BWSH. And we'll go up to the hair. I like to SHD is my short form or shorthand for shadow. So skin shadow. And then we've got the hair and the hair shadow. All right. So I think, and maybe we'll add the bow tie just for fun. All right, so now we have the majority. It's a pretty basic, it's a pretty simple color palette, which is pretty nice. That's pretty good. And let's see, there's only a couple more left to do, but we'll do the body another time. And we'll go back into the Kadence character, and we'll start to label these drawings. Now, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be utilizing some of the tools that we use in the industry that kind of changed our lives, to be honest. What's it called? It's the, what is that node called? Static transformation. It's a constraint. This node really changed the game for us for rigging. We used to have to rig the entire character. And then when the static transformation node came, it kind of allowed us to shortcut it in a way where we only had to build half the character or like 65% of the character. So we're going to be using that, which means that we get to shortcut a lot of the work. So we're actually, instead of building the entire character from top to down, we're only going to be building the side of the character top to down. So like in the head part, we'll have to build the whole thing. But for instance, he's got 2 arms, 2 eyes, 2 legs. We only have to build, it'll be the left side, if your screen left, that we're going to build. So we'll build this one, and we'll create another eyebrow as well inside the eye rig, so that he's got his little unibrow. But then we can also break them, and they can be separated, so that they can have a little bit more flexibility within the rig. Yeah, so that'll save us a lot of time, and you'll see what I mean when we get there. So, but no, the reason why I said that was I don't want you to jump ahead too far, because this is a real easy spot where you can just start to keep going, going, going. But yeah, so let's start with, I always think of things in layers. So for instance, what is the thing that is closest to, like if your camera is right in front of you, your nose is in, like if you're looking at me, my nose is in front of my glasses, my eyebrows are behind my glasses, but they're on top of my eyeballs, and then my eyelids are in front of my eyeball, and then my pupil is in front of the eyeball. So you get into these like little nuances of like paper thin layers, but this is exactly what we want to kind of pre-think about before we start going. So for this is my first drawing, and I'll zoom out of this process a little bit so that I can see. So again, I've got about 12, I got 12 drawings in this composite. So we'll go ahead and label the first one. And this one is going to be eyebrow. And then we'll go with pupil. And you're going to notice that I'm not using any sort of left and right descriptor. That's literally because the static transformation is going to take care of all that stuff. So we don't have to. It's actually my favorite thing to break things down simply. And in this case, this will be the simplest way to do it. So then we got the eye whites. It's just the eye. We got the eyebrow, the pupil, and the eye. And I'm going to go and add, let's see, the upper lid. And the lower lid. And I forgot to put that above, so I'm going to take those, just flip them around. And so here you can see that I've crossed streams. And for me, it's really important that the first view represents the proper hierarchy and layering of things. So I'm just going to really quickly make that little change right there. Look at that, my first mistake. glad it's not a big one. All right, so we got the eyebrow, then we got the upper lid, then we got the lower lid, then we got the pupil, then we got the eye, and then because animators like to have a lot more flexibility, there's a couple like secret things that sometimes we add to the rig. So because he's so cute, I'm gonna say let's do it. So I'm gonna add like a little a winkle, and I don't know what you would really call this, but like, you know, when characters get real cute and they're like, oh, I'm so in love, I'm so happy, oh yeah, this so, they've got this like big arch that comes up over their eyeball, so we're gonna add that in. It's not quite the cheek, which maybe we could call it a cheek, because we can call the blush a blush, but he's also got this other stuff. They're not really whiskers, but let's call that, maybe we'll add that as the cheek, and then we'll turn it into, we'll have to see what it looks like. We'll have to see. So let me go to drawing 6, and we're going to call this one, what do we call this? I'll call it a winkle. So Not quite a wrinkle. All right. And so from here, we're going to create a group. So this is going to be for our eye. Um, Now you can right click and go to group and group this with a composite, or you can hit control. I think it's Control Shift G will give you the composite automatically instead of just Control G, but just that. And through here, yeah. So now we've got our eye. I'm going to use these little bolt cutters right here just to sever this line. They don't need them. Oops. For now. The other thing, the way that I rig is I do all my drawings before I add pegs. So we won't be adding pegs today. And that's just the way that I work. That cements the artwork where it's supposed to be, which is very important on the first rotation, the first pose. So I actually add pegs pretty much at the end. So, or when I start to get into the engineering phase, that's kind of when I'll do it. So we're going to leave it for now. We're going to leave this as I. We're going to call this the I group. So here I can actually label this I1, and then we can label this I2 when we go to do it. But for now, as I mentioned earlier, we don't have to worry about labeling things left or right. We're going to use the static transformation. So part of that is just labeling it in the group. So the group is what's labeled the left and the right. Or the 1 and the 2. Sometimes people say near, far. This is a lot of this is like studio custom lingo. So wherever you go, this could be very different. I like using I because we are 1 and 2, not I1 and I2, because when we're flipping characters on the top pegs, a lot of times the left and the rights get confusing. So it's just become a standard for myself. Oh, dimple. Yeah. Well, I guess these could be dimples. We'll call these dimples. Thank you for the word. Click close. All right. All right. So now we've got our eye. And then we can move on. Like I said, this eye has the eyebrow and the eye and the cheek or the winkle in it. So we're not going to duplicate it right now. We're just going to pretend. We're just going to skip over it. We got one eye drawn, and then we're going to move on. So if you need to, if you want to remember, what you can do is you could go copy, Control V, Control B, paste special, and you can have another group there. It kind of like what that will do is it really just kind of keeps the place, I guess, so that you can move forward without having any like panic of like, oh, did I create the other eye? But we'll be recopying in this group anyway. Like this eye, the first eye is not done right now. We're just going in and labeling all these drawings. So then yeah, we'll finish the face. So then we'll do the eyes. We'll go from the eyes. We'll do the blush. Actually, before we do the blush, we'll do the dimples. So dimples or dimple. Don't need to have plural. Then we'll have the blush. And we'll add the mouth. And we do need a word for like these things. So like he's got this little these little like things at the side of his mouth. This could also be the dimple. This is where it gets a little bit more confusing. But this is gonna need a name. So like mouth crease, which is what I'll probably say. So I'll just say crease 1. All right, and then I'm gonna put a crease 2 in here, but it'll just be a placeholder. 2, that'll be the other one. So we got the mouth, we got the creases. He's going to have inside of his mouth, he does have teeth, he does have a tongue for his lip sync. So we can go ahead and we can add top teeth. and bottom teeth and tongue. And then because this is part of, actually, I'll show you another trick. Because this is part of the mouth still, and I'll finish this top teeth, bottom teeth, and teeth, and tongue. Tongue is a word I've never been able to spell correctly. T-O-U-E, I think. And then I'm going to create another composite. And I'm actually just going to pop this, actually popped it in the wrong spot. Pop it here. And I'm just going to steal this connection from here and here. We've learned a lot of really cool tricks on how to like utilize the network, how to jump around from like going from over here to over here. Yes, I could have grabbed those connections and unplugged them and popped them over here, but sometimes a composite is way faster and more efficient. And then the other thing I'm going to start to do is I will be using these composites to like start to organize my character. So for instance, here I've got my top teeth, bottom teeth, and tongue. I'm going to start going backwards now in my network. So I've got the crease, I've got the other crease, and then I've got the mouth, and that's actually, the mouth is going to go underneath these creases. I'm going to pop these in front. And so now I've got a composite for the mouth, and I can go and start to label these. This one's going to be the head. I know it might feel like I'm jumping around right now, but this is a very efficient way of rigging, and you'll see more as we go a little bit further. So just trust me on that one for now. You can copy and paste composites in the same way that you would when you're typing, like Control C, Control V. That's okay. The composites don't actually hold any information that you can kind of transfer. So you don't really have to worry about that too much. And then I'm just going to go add this and this here. And I'm going to turn this composite into like the face. This is going to be like the face composite. Okay. And so if you zoom out, you can start to really slowly see this composite right here is going to be the main head composite. So we're going to have a lot more composites running into this one. But for now, we'll go here. And typically I will do this for my entire character before I start. Before I start drawing, I'll have most of this work done so that I can just start to draw, and then I can draw the whole character. What I like to do, and maybe this is because I'm from Windsor, and we're always talking about like Henry Ford's the Ford line. The what is that called? That's the process where like everything kind of goes down the line, and you do like one person puts on the tire, one person puts on the screw, and like that's your job. You put on the tire all day, and then the next person puts on the screw all day, and that's kind of it. So I kind of see it like that. To me, it's assembly line. Thank you. This is kind of what rigging does for me. This is how I've kind of learned to like move through it faster. So I tend to just do everything all at once. So I'm gonna keep going. I'm probably gonna. We got 30 minutes. So we'll go through the whole head. I think we have the time. So this one here, this composite here is gonna be like the head and the hair. So we'll do this. And so I've got through the mouth, I've got through the blush, I've got through here. I think I'm missing I've got the blush and the dimple for the one. We're going to use the same trick with the eyes with that one since we have same thing over here. So then I can jump over here and I can go to the, again, I'm thinking like what's in front. So we'll do the, it's like, I guess it's kind of the jaw, but not quite the jaw. So we've got the head of the character, and then we got the forehead of the character. We'll call this a wrinkle. And so let's see, the head of the character is in front of the forehead. So we'll do, then we'll do the wrinkle and the forehead. Okay. And I'm gonna add a composite to that. I know that it's needed. And I'm just trying to like organize it and block out the character. Really rough. When we go in and like really start to work, these things do get shuffled around. But for now, it's just a good organization practice. And then we get into the hair. So we've got copy view. I've got this like front fringe, front bangs right here, including the shadows. Now, when again, the difference between like rigging maybe for a school project and then getting into something that's like for television, it's just more detail. So we're just going to go in and add a lot more detail. So it's going to be more pieces than you think. So I'll do a quick like shout out. Like, how many pieces do you think that this hair, this little bang piece could be? Like, just give me a number. Um, and I'll count myself. Okay, 7 or so. Good guess. Anyone else? Okay, 3. Yeah. All right. So we got, let's say there's one piece right here, two pieces right here. We've got this piece. This is 3. Then we got 4. And then we've got this one right here, which could be 5. And then when you get into the shadows, we've got 6 and we've got 7. So there's about 7 pieces. And then if we want, we can even get more technical right here and add its own shadow. So that's 8. So we can actually do 8 pieces here in total. So, which I think we've almost got enough. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So pretty close. So we're just going to go in and say hair. Oh, Maybel, you're okay. Uh, and we might have to actually I'll call it bangs. So bang. And this is where you can copy and paste um, your naming. Okay, so 2, and let's say front. Let's just do this real quick. We'll do the bangs front 1, 2, and 3. We'll call this a detail and we'll call this a shadow. So let's change this one to 2. Okay, and we'll call this one the detail or front detail. Call this shadow. All right. this one. Or this is the one part where you always get stuck when you have to start naming things the front back. This always happens when I'm labeling like the animal legs. When you have four-legged animals, it's like you got the front leg, and you got the front back leg, and the front back leg, and then the back leg. So it can kind of get a little confusing. So we'll try to keep it as simple as possible. Bangs front. I could have also used 1 and 2 for instead of front and back, but oh well, it's a bit late. So we'll just go front, behind. I'll just call that behind. All right. So and then I've got copy, Control V, Control B. Got the 2 shadows right here. And what I'm going to do for these 2 is I'm going to bring them up and over to their actual drawing nodes. So we've got bangs front 2 and 3. And if this is 1 and 2 and 3, then it's going to be bangs front shadow 1, or bangs bangs FR SHD 1. Shadow 2. Right. And I'm going to plug those in behind. And then I'll shuffle the network down and make some space. And I also want the detail to be in front. I'm going to actually put that here. When I get into rigging the actual hierarchy, it's going to make a little bit more sense too as to why, kind of the why I do the things that I do. Again, these are like years of learning shortcuts and trying to be more efficient with how I do things. So a lot of that stuff might get revealed later on in the process. Right, so now, there we go. So now I've got the whole head. I might as well finish off this back piece here. And in this case, what I'm gonna do, because I'm lazy, I'm gonna steal. I believe this is wait, we'll start here. Copy, so this will be the second hair piece. This one right here. Control B, Control B. Match that to the hair. This one actually won't go here. Go more like that. And okay, so now what I can do, we've got, let's say this is not the bangs anymore. Let's call this one the hair. So I'm gonna do a quick, I'm gonna see if I can get this to work. It's kind of a bit what's the word? It's a bit advanced, but let's see if it'll work. I'm basically going to take the words here and I'm going to change the prefix. So instead of it being bangs FR, I'm going to see if I can do it at once. I'm going to put hair, and let's remove bangs FR. Let's get rid of that. So I don't know if I can, I've never done this both at the same time. but let's see if this will work. So yeah, sweet, good enough. It's giving me an extra space. I didn't need to leave that, but there we go. So that's a really quick way of changing the words. And that's another reason why it's a good idea to always have like the same prefix, because you can go in and use little tools like that and change them all really quickly. So I'm not going to worry too much about that extra space. I'm going to leave it. So I've got my hair detail, which is here. I've also got the hair shadow, which I'm going to move up front. Goes behind the line. I'm going to remove the number though, because that doesn't necessarily need to be there. Okay, so hair detail, hair shadow, and then we got the hair, and then we got the hair 1, 2, and 3, and 4. It looks like we've got a couple. So how many did I say I needed? One. Oh, we need another detail right here. So I'll steal this one because we don't need 2 shadows. Hair detail. Yeah. We'll call it a loop. All right, so we're coming up at the end of our hour. I'm going to be able to finish this and we'll keep going, but I'll ask you in the chat. This is pretty much what it's going to look like. So next week on Tuesday, should I run through the whole character and just finish what I'm doing, or should we backtrack, do a little bit of drawing, and then come back and do the rest of the body? I do want to ask you right now what you think. Okay, well, you think about it. I'm going to finish what I'm doing, but let me know. Yeah, because we can go forward and we can backtrack. Do you want to backtrack? Somebody wants to backtrack? Somebody else wants to backtrack? All right, so we'll move on and then we'll backtrack. Okay, so we'll basically be able to do all the drawings for the head next week, is what I'm thinking. And then we'll backtrack and then we'll move on to the body. Okay. Also, if you don't have a node view, you want to make sure that you have downloaded Harmony Premium, because if you've downloaded one of the other versions, you won't have access to the node view because it's not there. Those are different versions of the program where they don't necessarily use the node view at all. I can't remember if Advanced has the node view or not. But definitely, if it does, it's a very limited version of the node view. So if you don't have it, maybe you're looking at the wrong program. But that is a bit strange. You should be able to get your node view just by clicking on a plus button somewhere. There should be, if this list doesn't look like this list, if your list doesn't look like this list, there's a chance that maybe you're using a different version of the program. So yeah, but you should be able to find that. All right, let me finish this up. And I think we'll have enough time to like set the line weights of the character. Make sure that we know what that looks like for the next time. So all of our artistic stuff will be almost done. Okay, so hair detail, hair shadow, that's these two pieces here. Hair detail loop. And then hair, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, well. Didn't see where that one fell, so that one fell trigger. All right, hair 1, hair 2. If you haven't saved your work, now's a good time. There, 3. You're okay. You're okay. And I'm missing 1. Okay. Your shadow 5. That'll probably be it. Okay. All right. So, and then we don't have to worry about this. So we'll just put that up to the top. Save your scene. You're okay, Maybel. What's the matter? She wants on the computer. She wants a turn. She loves carrots. She just wants to eat all the carrots. All the treats. All right. All right, cool. All right, so the face is pretty much done. I can get rid of this extra as it is. So this is basically here. You can see how large his head is going to be inside the network. So a lot of times this is where, like when you start to envision how big the network can be, it can get a little daunting and a little bit overwhelming. But this is where I like to remind people that we're looking at it in a very segmented portion. So you can very much just, you zoom out, you can get overwhelmed, but when you zoom back in, you just want to focus on the little network that's in front of you. So we're going to go back to the face. I always try to work from left to right, and then I will kind of repeat that process. When you jump all over the place, like if I worked on an eye, and then I worked on a bow tie, and then I worked on the bangs, and then I did the face and the head, and then I did the other piece of the hair, that's where you can make mistakes. So this is why I'm always thinking the way that I am when I'm working. Which is basically like I said, like the face to the head to the hair, and then it's shoulders to toes. So that's basically so that I am not creating holes and pockets of missed information. So yeah, so I usually go from the left to the right, and then I'll follow through, and then I'll jump back because there's a lot of steps to finish it. But yeah, so let's keep going. So we're gonna jump into the eye network. So we'll do our first drawing here. We'll figure out what the line weights are for this character. Maybel wants her 2 cents. She wants to tell you that she loves it, and she wants thick lines, thick black lines. Hey, Maybel, need more peanut butter? This is the witching hour for you, eh? Okay. All right. So let's see what kind of line thickness we're working with here. So if you remember, we set up our shortcuts today, and those were all the drawing tools. So line, rectangle, and ellipse. I basically do everything through a rectangle and an ellipse. The line is handy as well, but usually I'm working with a rectangle. And what I mean by that is, so for instance, we're gonna go. I'm gonna create this real one big eyebrow here. But if I just hit or what is it, Alt X, I get my rectangle, and then I can kind of decide what line thickness I want to use. Maybel, you gotta chill. Change the color so you can see it. So the line thickness for a 5 is a bit too thin. So we can take a look at this a little bit more in depth. This is where we'll start to kind of talk about. This is probably a good place to stop too. I'll go over the select tools, but then when we come back, I'll go over the select tools again. So we have different types of select tools in this program. And so we've got the contour editor and then the actual select tool. So the select tool is the black arrow. The contour editor is the white tool. And I know that the little chat box is covering it, which sucks. So I'll figure that out for next week. I'll try to move that and put it somewhere that it's not so invasive. Maybe kind of closer to my face, or I can hide it. Maybe. Is it even needed? Do you need to see the chat box from your end? Just a quick question. Let me know, because if I can just disable it and get rid of it, it just gives you more screen to see, which is what I would prefer, but I don't know what you would prefer. So yeah, so let's say, okay, so if I grab the select arrow, the black arrow, it allows me to grab the artwork as a whole. So it's very handy if you want to like grab an entire selection. And then the contour editor allows me to get in there, and it allows me to like select the details, which means like the contours themselves. So with the contour editor, oh, Maybel. With the contour editor, I can select the white arrow and I can kind of edit it like this. So that's what I mean by grabbing the designs. But the select tool itself allows me to grab the whole thing. I fed her right before we did this. So she's I don't know what she wants right now. And we went for a walk. And she got fed. So she's being very demanding right now. Probably because it's the first stream. Okay. Can you give me a minute? We're almost done. Can you give me a minute? Can you show them that you are a patient puppy? Okay. All right. So line thickness. We'll grab our select tool, and that allows us to grab the whole artwork as it is, and then I can go through here and I can kind of play with the line thickness. So it is like a sliding scale. And so here I can kind of decide. Oh, Maybel, you are. Can you please lay down? Hey, come here. Hey, come. Can you lay down, please? Give me 5 minutes. 5 minutes. I did. Give me 5 minutes. Okay. You can't. Can't give me 5 minutes. She also knows that I have a big bag of treats next to me. You can do this. Sniff that one out. All right, so 11.2 is too thick. 10 was probably too thick. 5 was too thin. So let's see what 7 looks like. 7 looks like it is too thin. So 8. Let's see, 9. All right, you know what? Let's stick with whole numbers because I'm a big fan. And then one of my other tricks, what I like to do to compare, because you got a line on top of a line and you're kind of trying to gauge, and you can kind of see that it's thicker over here, but you can't really see what's going on under here, and same thing over here. So I'll actually take the alpha and I'll turn it down. And that's also another trick and a reason why I like to use a completely different line color than what I'm working with, because I'll play with the opacity just so that I can kind of see through my design. Now I can kind of trace on top of everything. I can see it a lot easier. So I'm probably going to leave it at 10, which is kind of convenient because that's really easy. The one thing that I really do try to stay away from, K. Do I use K? K as in like the clear lines, so like a 0. What is that called? Like this. I'll turn my shortcut on for K. This is what is this line called? This line is called, got a name. Where is it? Wait, leave it. Stroke. So this is like an invisible line. I actually avoid invisible lines. So this is what I've done is I've set this line thickness to 0, which means that the camera can't actually pick it up, but it's still there. I kind of think of it as like digital garbage. And if people don't know that it's there, it gets in the way. So I try to avoid using it. I have used it in the past. But uh K for your line. No, never make lines invisible. I mean on your line thick lines. So like you mean let me go back. So you mean on a line thickness of 10, Mabel, um, and then just turning on the K value? That? Oh, yeah, yeah, definitely. I don't think that I need it though, a lot of times, because when I go to my contour editor, I can kind of see it. So I use it there. It's that's a personal preference. I tend not to use that too much, but I do know it's there, and I do turn it on sometimes. In this case, the color looks really similar to the line, so I would turn it on just so that I could have something else to look at to pick up on that information. Yeah. All right. So let's see. Let's go back to my contour. I'm pretty happy with a 10. Let's see. Oh, Maybel, you're making this hard. Poor baby. What do you want? I don't know what you want. All right. So, let's see. Let's go back to what was I talking about? Now I'm lost. Now I'm lost. Okay. I was going to trace out this eyebrow and oh, the line thickness. All right. So there was one note that I wanted to make about line thickness. Can you hear me over her? Like, is this? It's got to be distracting for you too. But can you hear her? I mean, I know you can hear her, but can you hear me over her? Is I guess the real. It's yeah. We'll figure it out. It's a bit new for. She doesn't normally bark like this though. All right. So she's probably telling me somebody fell in a well somewhere. All right. So we'll wrap this up, and this is the last thing that I really wanted to talk about, and I'll finish drawing this next week. We'll get into that. But what I wanted to say was for your line thicknesses. Whenever I'm working with line thicknesses, I always avoid half numbers or quarter numbers. And what I mean by that is like because we have this slider, and because Harmony can be ultra sensitive, you can tell the computer, okay, I want this to be a 9.5 or a 9.75, and it will do it. It will do it. But that means that when an animator or a rigger has to go and create new lines, they have to kind of go in and type 9.7 every time. So I avoid that. And I try to set up the whole pipeline so that everybody avoids that. So I always round up to the whole number. The only exception is when I start to work with pinched lines. And if that's the case, I'll do it really specifically depending on these are usually conversations that you have with directors and designers at the beginning to make sure that your rigging reflects the design for the show and the style. So those are kind of conversations that do come up when you start rigging the first character. So we'll talk a little bit more. I won't get into like the tapering of lines today. Now that now that she's calm, she's we're kind of ending. But yeah, so I guess we'll end the last a little bit. Do you have any questions? Are there any questions that I can answer real quick? And we'll get into a little more of details of what I just did. So and then what tool did I use to make the line? Good question. The stream is recorded. The stream will be available while I'm rigging the character. So I would not recommend starting at the end. I would try to follow along as we go, especially if you're if you need help, if you want to get help. That's going to be really important. Um, but for now, the streams will be available. I'm going to upload them to YouTube as well, so that they'll be there. Um, and then I just don't know if they'll be up permanently yet. That's something that I have to kind of figure out. Like I said, this is a bit of an experiment to see where it goes. And then yes, you can draw the line. I use the rectangle tool a lot. I find it much faster to delete points and edit points than to start over and to create lines all the time. So I'm usually, that's muscle memory. It's like a decade's worth of muscle memory. So I'm usually creating rectangles or ellipses and then editing them into the shape that I want them. Um, how long will I be rigging the character roughly? I don't know. I don't know. 2 hours a week. I couldn't tell you how long. That could be 20 weeks. And which means I might have to speed up the process. Maybe I do this twice a week. I don't know. We got to figure it in. We got to fit it into the schedule. But for now, once a week is perfect. um, so yeah, I'll do some housekeeping. You can follow along. This will be uploaded to YouTube. And I think you can review it through Twitch. I'm learning all this as I go. So bear with me, but I do want to make this easy for you. And then you can go to my website, and if you need help, I'm going to be available on Thursdays at the same time. Um, and for 20 bucks, you can just drop in, and you'll get an email with the link, and you can buy that on my website. So that's www.lindsaynoller.ca. And then also you can follow along on my Instagram account. I haven't really been advertising that I do have an Instagram account, but it's the same as the Twitch account. So it's Lindsay K, and then there's an underscore. So at Instagram, it's and it's Lindsay, not Lindsay K. This is my Instagram handle. Maybel, what are you doing? So you can follow me there, and you'll. I just like to share people's artwork. I went to the Ottawa International Animation Festival to kind of promote and kickstart this, so you'll see a lot of pictures from that journey, and then I'm also going to be, promoting fun little memes about growth mindsets and stuff. So yeah, you'll find more information there or on my website. And Thursdays, you can catch us Rig Along Help. So if you find that under services, you can read a little bit more about it, and then you can always book the help from the schedule page. So under my website, go to schedule, find Rig Along Help, and then you can just choose which Thursday you want to go to. And this Thursday will be the first one. So I'm excited to see how that goes. So I don't know. Do you have any other questions? I have a rigging question about when you use static transformations and why. Personally, unless it is a last resort, it's a taboo. Oh, I'd like to hear more about that. I bet my career on static transformations, and it paid off. So I don't know how to explain that one. It saves so much time. There's some really cool tricks you can do with a static transformation. By the end of this, the static transformation will be your best friend. So, and I'll show you all the do's and the don'ts, because you can get into trouble with that too. But yeah, all right, sweet. I can't wait to see you on Thursday or next week, and I got to figure out how to close this stream. Yeah, enjoy the rest of your week. Bye. Stay tuned for more.